I thought ESPN flaunted themselves as the worldwide leader in woke. Correct me if I'm wrong here. I thought ESPN claimed to be the proud home of women's sports. They are constantly promoting their pride and joy, the league they claim is the premier league in women's sports in the world, the dump of all dumps, the shiny turd of polished turds, the WNBA. That is ESPN, right? Well, according to one of their woke welfare collectors and ultimate victims, who should be nominated every single year for the huge embarrassing failure awards, but Sarah Spain is so irrelevant, she is so unknown, her embarrassing failure goes unnoticed. According to Sarah Spain, ESPN's not the proud home of women's sports. Matter of fact, it's the complete opposite. According to Sarah Spain, ESPN is the proud home of old white men who are missing out on the massive economic opportunity to monetize their network around women's sports. Clearly Sarah Spain didn't study economics during her indoctrination at Woke U. I guarantee you, if there was a way to monetize women's sports, if there was a way to make money covering women's sports, television networks, they would figure it out. David Stern was the ultimate capitalist. He was an elite businessman. One of the smartest business minds of his generation. He could not crack the uncrackable code of monetizing the WNBA dump. If you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Now, I'm sure some of you are saying, KC, who in the hell is Shauna Payne? Is she one of the performers at Club Shay Shay? No. There's only one dancing queen at Club Shay Shay, and that prestigious title belongs to the queen of dancing queens, Jackie Mahomes. If you're a daily viewer of ESPN, you probably still wouldn't recognize Sarah Spain. Her bi-weekly paychecks from the worldwide leader in woke, it is the very definition of woke welfare. Supposedly, Sarah Spain is a columnist for ESPN.com and something called ESPNW.com, but it's strange. I could not find a single article written by Sarah Spain in the last 2 years. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but when I tried to find her archives on ESPN.com, it came back with this weird message that said, "Site not found." Maybe there's a logical explanation for this. Maybe Sarah Spain changed roles at ESPN, and maybe she was promoted to radio or television. She did have a show on ESPN radio with some doofus named Grits or Pitts or Shits. Who cares? It doesn't matter what his name is. ESPN decided to pair him with Sarah Spain because they both had something in common. Outside of their parents, no one knows who the hell they are. My inside sources tell me Sarah Spain, she's got to wear her ESPN name tag at family reunions. Poor Fitz, he wasn't given a name tag due to budget cuts, so he still goes unrecognized. They hosted a show on ESPN radio for a couple of years where they were constantly changing time slots. If I had to guess, ESPN kept changing their time slot due to low ratings. Eventually, ESPN got tired of throwing money into the bottomless pit and they canceled the show. In her nearly 2 decades in sports media, Sarah Spain is basically only known for one thing, her crowning achievement. Matter of fact, many consider Sarah Spain to be a trailblazer in sports media for future victims like Mina Kimes and Elle Duncan. Back in 2007, Sarah Spain, she was an anonymous aspiring journalist living in Los Angeles. She was looking for a way to get noticed. She was looking for an entry point into sports media. So what did she do? Did she work her ass off and work hard to earn her spot? Did she form connections? Did she send out hundreds, maybe even thousands of resumes? No, no, and no. Sarah Spain got on eBay and she auctioned herself to lonely men looking for a date to the Super Bowl. Now keep in mind, this is the same woman who preaches girl power. Women can do anything men can do. The queen of girl power. She auctioned herself to lonely men in a desperate attempt to get a free ride to the Super Bowl and a free job in sports media. Yesterday, Sarah Spain, she was the guest on the Sports Media Watch podcast. Now, when I came across this headline earlier this morning, my first question was, why? Why in the hell would anyone waste their time interviewing Sarah Spain? Bomani Jones might be the originator of huge embarrassing failures, but at least Bobo is a known failure. At least Bomani Jones is a somewhat famous failure. Sarah Spain, she is the worst kind of embarrassing failure. Sarah Spain's an unknown failure. Unlike Bomani Jones, Sarah, she prefers to fail in the shadows. But yesterday, Sarah Spain, she was doing what she does best, whining and complaining. She was whining and complaining to Sports Media Watch about ESPN's refusal to create a daily show that's only focused on women's sports. Sarah Spain claims that she pitched the idea to ESPN multiple times. She claims that she even had companies willing to sponsor the show. She had companies willing to invest money they knew they would never get back. And every time Sarah Spain presented the show to executives at ESPN, or as she refers to them, old white dudes, every time she presented this polished turd to executives at ESPN, they rejected it. I wonder why. Initially, I thought maybe, just maybe, ESPN wasn't rejecting the idea of a daily show that focused on women's sports. I thought ESPN was just rejecting Sarah Spain. When you think about it, it kind of makes sense. ESPN wasted millions of dollars trying to turn Bomani Jones into a star. You can make a strong case that Sarah Spain, she is more of a huge embarrassing failure than Bomani Jones. So, why would ESPN waste millions of dollars on an idea that is being presented to them by someone who has never sniffed the boodle of success? So initially I thought maybe ESPN was just rejecting Sarah Spain, or maybe ESPN was rejecting Sarah Spain and her doofus idea. Let's think about this logically for just a second. Let's assume that Sarah Spain was asking for an hour every day on ESPN. Or if the show was actually given the green light, it would probably be an hour every day on ESPN Deportes. That way, they're not giving away valuable television real estate to this steaming turd of an idea. But either way, it's an hour a day where you can only talk about women's sports. Let me ask you something. What are they going to talk about? Well, Casey, they can talk about the NWSL. That league is exploding in popularity. The what? The what? The NWSL? Most people don't realize that the NWSL even exists. Who in the hell's going to watch a show to listen to people they've never heard of talk about people they've never heard of? Well, KC, they could talk about the WNBA. The WNBA is filled with huge stars. The dump? You want ESPN to dedicate an hour every day to anonymous people talking about anonymous dump divers? The WNBA is not filled with huge stars. The WNBA has a star. If ESPN was looking for an hour of comedy every day, they could produce a show that's focused on the WNBA. But like I told you guys countless times before, after a while, the substandard basketball presented by this league, it's no longer funny. Let me show you an example. Let me show you one of the many reasons that ESPN refuses to dedicate a show to women's sports. This clip, it was sent to me by one of my channel members on Discord this morning. If you haven't already, sign up to become a channel member and join us on Discord. We got a good group on there where we have daily discussions on just about everything. The group, they help me out a lot with the content for the channel. So if you want to support the channel and join us on Discord, become a channel member today. Spence sent me this clip on Discord of a recent WNBA game. Now, this was a sequence of plays in a recent game where the New York Liberals were playing. Hell, I don't know who they were playing, Maybe it was the Atlanta Dreamers or the Dallas Wankers, the LA Sparkles. Hell, it could have been the Phoenix Masculines. Hard to tell in this league because not only are the players anonymous, the teams are anonymous too. You would think that you would be able to identify the teams based on the logos on the court, but with WNBA teams sharing gyms with local high schools, sometimes the high school's logos are left on the court. But anyway, this sequence of plays, it's from a recent game in the WNBA. Sarah Spain, she wants ESPN to dedicate an hour every day to focusing on women's sports. I would assume you would need highlights to fill the hour. You tell me how ESPN could fill an hour every day with this garbage. Sound is muted for copyright reasons because there's a song playing in the background, but watch it for yourself. Does Sarah Spain think ESPN has a magician on staff? How can anyone polish this turd? The best producers in Hollywood, they could not make the WNBA look presentable. Let me tell you the real reason that ESPN refuses to dedicate a show to women's sports. It's really simple to understand. They can't monetize it. They can't make money on it. I promise you, if ESPN could make money on women's sports, they would find a way to do it. ESPN can claim all they want to be the proud home of the WNBA, but at the end of the day, the non-binary mouse that owns ESPN, whether it's choosing to identify as Mickey or Minnie, doesn't matter. The mouse only cares about one thing: money, profit. Sarah Spain claims that ESPN is behind the times because network executives are middle-aged white men, or as she calls them, old white dudes, which is kind of ironic. Sarah Spain referring to middle-aged white men as old since she's a middle-aged white woman. But this decision, it has absolutely nothing to do with race and gender. This decision is based on one color: green. ESPN hasn't fully embraced women's sports because the long-term viability, it's unknown. And it's not just ESPN. Other networks, they're making the same decision. There is one star in women's sports, Caitlin Clark. There's a semi-star in Angel Reese, but outside of those two players, everyone else is unknown. Can you name a single player in the NWSL? Kind of hard to fill 5 hours of television every week, 12 months a year, talking about two players. But give me your thoughts on this. Sarah Spain criticizes her subsidizer for not embracing women's sports. She whines and complains about ESPN rejecting her doofus idea. Is there any point in a daily show covering women's sports? Who do you agree with? Do you agree with Sarah Spain, or do you agree with ESPN rejecting the idea? Let me know. Sound off in the comments below. Like, subscribe, share the video. Appreciate your support. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, and I'll see you guys later.